I don't know. I kind of want to go back to the Pee Wee days and ask you, what was that first little bit of coaching that hooked you to it, that went, oh, okay, wait a second, Jon, you have a little bit of an act for this. Like with me, the podcast, like I got great reactions from people of questions that I asked, and that hooked me.
Yep.
And now we're at episode 300. What was that element of coaching that go, oh, okay, I'm good at that. I can get through to this guy. How do
I should explain that better. So the whole time I was coaching minor hockey, I was a university student, and I was going to school, and I was going to school to be a teacher. So I have an education degree. I taught for a few years before I coached the Mooseheads full time. I was teaching at a private hockey academy. Nate was a student there too, so again, another tie to him. But like he was one of our students at the school, so I was actually teaching him in the classroom in the morning, then on the ice with them in the afternoon. We had guys like Matthew Highmore came through that program as well. So we've had a few really good players come through that school. So that background, it certainly helps as a coach. Everyone says coaching is teaching, and of course it is. But I mean, that was sort of what I wanted to do. If you would ask me at 22, what do you think you do? I'd say, I would love to be a teacher and coach on the side, and that would have been fine. And I've sort of molded that into one role. But I think my educational background helps coaching for sure. I have a pretty, I'd say, laid back approach. But I guess one thing, if you're ever to talk about your strengths as a coach, is an uncomfortable thing to do, is I think I can explain things pretty well. I can explain things, and I think what players want today is they want it just black and white. Tell me where to go, what to do, and why. They want to know why, because they want to know why this is going to work.
Yeah.
But they just want it to be simple, clear and simple, not, okay, if this happens, that. No, if this does, you have to read it and do this. Like if there's too much gray area, it's confusing. I think a lot of times in hockey, there's things that have to be spontaneous, that have to be creative, but then there's certain things with positioning and where you want guys to be that it has to be this way. This is why you show it, and they do it. And if you're clear and direct, you're going to get buy-in, and guys are going to trust and believe in it. And then when they get success doing it that way, that helps, of course, too.
That's really cool. That's a good answer. We've had a couple coaches on here. I've never had an answer like that. That's nice.
Yeah.
Giving direction.
Yeah, I mean, you played hockey, man. You want things to be just clear and concise. I mean, you want it to make sense too. Because sometimes coaches are going to say something, you say, okay, I'll do that, but that doesn't really make sense. So I think explaining the why is important. I need you to be here because of this.
Yeah, because.
Okay.
That's the key word, because.
And if you don't understand that or you question that, ask me. And we'll go deeper in that. I'll tell them that. I think you're better off in this spot at the back post with your stick on the ice because it takes away this.
Yeah.
Is that clear? Does that make sense to you? If it doesn't, tell me and we'll talk it out. But if they're like, oh no, that makes sense. Okay, boom, move on. That's what it is, and let's move on. So I just try to be clear and direct in my teaching and what you ask as a coach, and I think that's the best. And on our staff, I run the penalty kill. I do a penalty kill meeting normally the mornings of a game, and they're. I try to keep them under 5. They're 3 minutes long. It's 3 minutes of 8 to 10 clips. This is what we expect from the other team tonight. This is what they're going to try to do. This is how we're going to defend it. We're going to go here, here, and here. We're going to do this in the forecheck, face-offs, look for this. We're going to get clears here. Is that clear? You look around the room, and it's been like 3 minutes, and I've tried to just cover everything, but I'm just trying to be short, concise. I know the attention spans are small. I know it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Our game's that night, so it's just like, this is the plan for tonight. Let's stick with it. I'll review it tonight, but I try to keep it clear, concise, and to the point, and I think guys appreciate that.
In junior hockey, it's a cool dynamic how guys from all over the world can come play for the Mooseheads. Bobby's done a great job from recruiting guys from Europe, the United States, just all over Canada. It's a very international team, always has been, always will be. Being an assistant coach role, that's a role of not being friends with the player, but getting a little bit more comfortable with them rather than the head coach.
Yes.
How do you find that? How do you like that part of the gig?
Yeah, it's cool, man. It's that's one thing is, people, assistant coach, you're sort of good cop, in that sort of sense, right? And I don't mind that at all. It's probably more my personality. And I find having that relationship, having a positive sort of not heavy relationship with them all the time helps. That then if you need to be heavy or you are pissed off at a guy, it kind of means more. It's like, oh, this guy's normally the good guy, and right now he's kind of giving me a hard time. He must be I must have really messed up if he's doing it because he doesn't do it all the time.
Yeah.
So I think that helps. But yeah, that's kind of one of the coolest parts of our job is we do get players from. Oh, you're right, all over the world, but we get a couple of Europeans every year. We've had Americans. We've had people, of course, from all over Atlantic Canada. We have Quebec players come in that can't speak very well English in the beginning, and we have to, there's a bit of a stumbling block there at times. But I guess one thing I really try to keep in mind is where they come from. We have a guy, Lucas Robinson, from Rocky Harbour, Newfoundland. He comes here as a 17-year-old with the Mooseheads, and it's one thing to look at him and say, okay, he's a hockey player. I'm going to teach him this, teach him that. And then you got to take a step back and say, everything about being here and being a Moosehead is overwhelming right now. School is overwhelming for him right now. It's a bigger community that he's used to. It's a bigger school that he's used to. He's not used to coming and not just playing hockey at this level, but I think everything's a little bit more overwhelming for a guy from a smaller town. So you have to be patient with those guys, and you have to understand they're going to grow and develop at their own rates, and your expectations. Yes, you want to have the same expectations for everybody, but depending on where a guy's from, I think you have to be a little bit more patient at times. So yeah, you have a player that comes here. Nico Hischier came here from a fairly small town in Switzerland. I'm sure he was overwhelmed by a lot of things. He wasn't used to playing in a arena like the Scotiabank Centre. He wasn't used to having media around all the time. He wasn't used to that sort of hype around him. And there's a lot of getting used to. He's eating new foods and doing new things that he's probably not used to, living with a billet family. So there's a lot that's new in their lives when they come to junior hockey, and I think you have to, as a coach, keep those things in mind when you're dealing with them.
Yeah, it's an exciting factor of the game, outside of the game, making sure that someone's comfortable, because it really has nothing to do with hockey. It's just making sure that the person is comfortable, because if they're comfortable, that means they'll perform on the ice. And that's a cool just element of junior hockey, I find, getting to know a guy and making sure he's a good character and making sure that he's comfortable so he'll execute on the ice. And obviously the Mooseheads have done that very well. If you look at their draft history, it's
and then take into mind these guys are 16 to 20, and they may not see their parents for 6, 8, 12, 16 weeks at a time, which is the first time for a lot of guys too. So we all like the comfort of home, and of course we have local players. They're lucky, they're pretty fortunate, but then you have these guys from other places, and they need a little extra love too, because they're here, and I'm sure they're missing their families when they're having a tough day. They're not going home to their mom's home cooked meal. Our billets do a phenomenal job of getting that, and trying to be that sort of parental influence or guidance for them, but it'll never be the same as your own. Yeah.